Let's talk about governance in public education. It really comes down to the student, because I, as a parent, want to know how my student is getting the information that they get. What does this look like? Who makes these decisions? And what's interesting is that it's almost like a series of circles about how close to the student a different layer is that impacts what they learn. So the closest you have is the classroom, your teacher, your paras, your classmates, things like that. The next level is your school. So that's, all the classes together, your principal, the PE teacher, whoever it might be. One step larger is the district. So the collection of schools that are kind of governed in the same area. Usually this is geography related. And there's huge variation in the size in Nebraska. So district can mean different things in different places. And then finally, the last kind of touch point, farthest away from the student that still has an impact, is the state. The model of the US system of education is one of the most decentralized in the world. If you want to see what a centralized system looks like, take a look at France. Theirs is highly, highly centralized. What does that mean? It means that jurisdiction, responsibility, funding, authority is mostly at the local or the state level. And when you think about this, as you're thinking about the governments and the decisions that get made, they happen at these different levels, mostly closer to the students. So, for example, when we're talking about staffing, that could be a school decision or partially a district decision, or based on how much is being provided in budget from the state. So it touches all of those. Budget, curriculum, long-term planning, weather closures, is that a district level thing? In Omaha it is, where it's like, is OPS have school yet? What's that mean for West Side or Boston or that type of thing? So that's a district level decision. So think of all these different decisions getting made at different levels that impact your students' experience. I'd like to give an example of curriculum in particular and how it relates to student. This has been a hot topic lately in Nebraska, particularly with some of our different standards, curriculum standards or guidelines. So how does curriculum actually work? How do decisions get made about what your student learns in the classroom? And I, again, have to give a shout out to the educator who's on our action team who used this example. She teaches middle school, so she had this one ready to go. So let's start the widest. At the state sets curriculum standards or guidelines depending on the topic area. Let's say we're talking about a middle school English class. Middle school English, every 7th grader in Nebraska needs to complete a unit on identity, all those coming of age stories and those types of things, so identity. So then at the district level, what does that look like? Well, the district says every 7th grader to learn about identity is going to read The Outsiders, the book The Outsiders. Great read if you haven't read it yet. So then the school says, okay, the district has told us we need to learn about identity. We're going to read the Outsiders. We're going to have that happen in the spring. So our 3 7th grade classes are all going to read The Outsiders in the spring to learn about identity. And then the classroom is where that teacher makes the decision. How do I make this work for my kids, for my students? So an example would be every 7th grader at this school is going to read The Outsiders in the spring and write a persuasive essay to demonstrate they understand identity. So you'll see like the different layers of how that boils down to your student. So when people think about curriculum or standards or guidelines, again, those are kind of a really high level look that then get to be interpreted at closer and closer local levels to the actual education of your student.